defending really wealthy countries and not being reimbursed, paid. It's one thing when we defend countries that can't defend themselves and they're great people and we should help them. We don't expect anything for that. But when we're defending immensely wealthy countries and they're not paying for the defense to the United States, they're only taking advantage of us. And we are in discussions with numerous countries, all of whom you know, about payment. And we get along with them very well, but it's not fair. That includes NATO. As you know, I got $44 billion additional last year, where they paid an additional. You can speak to Secretary General Stoltenberg, who's the head of NATO, and he said he's never seen anything like it. And this year we did even better. But when a country is very wealthy, and when the United States has been protecting them for many years at tremendous cost like nobody in this room would believe, it's time that they help with, we call it burden sharing, and they will do that.
I'm absolutely delighted that today, as Polish president, I can be here at Washington, sit at the same table with the President of the United States and sign an agreement which is deepening our strategic partnership and which is renewing that strategic partnership. I'm talking here about the agreement on the strategic partnership. Such agreement was signed in 2008 between our countries. Back then it was signed by the ministers of foreign affairs, and today this renewed version, the version which has been updated because a lot has changed over the 10 years, this renewed version of the strategic partnership was signed personally by myself and President Donald Trump, and I would like to express my deep gratitude to you, Mr. President, for that fact. This agreement indicates the most important aspects of our cooperation and our friendship. It also sets new paths for the future. The paths of tightening our defense cooperation, military cooperation, tightening our cooperation in the area of security and energy business, tightening our cooperation in the broadly understood sphere of business, also in the aspect of the already mentioned cooperation as part of the 3 Cs initiative, to which Mr. President has just alluded. I came here to Washington right from the summit of the 3 Cs initiative, the first business forum organized as part of the 3 Cs initiative. The United States was present there as the partner of the 3 Cs, and thank you, Mr. President, for that. Thank you for posting your representatives to that meeting. And all the leaders who held their speeches there said in a very clear way about the need and hope for cooperation with the United States of America regarding the renewal and building of a new infrastructure, road infrastructure, railway infrastructure, energy infrastructure, both concerning electricity and the transmission of gas in Central Europe along the north-south axis. I'm referring here to the area between the Baltic states through Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania, all the way down to the Black Sea, and then through Croatia and Slovenia to the Adriatic Sea. This is the space in which we want to cooperate. This is the space in which we want to develop. Our cooperation with the United States is of key importance in this respect. Also, as far as providing energy security is concerned. Today we talked at length about this with Mr. President. We also discussed threats to energy security in Europe, to the possible diversification of supplies. Without any doubt, such a huge, biggest threat right now is posed by the construction of Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. We discussed at length about this with Mr. President. I presented him the situation as it is. Unfortunately, we have to be clear and say that both from the German side and from the Russian side, this construction has already been started. There are still some formalities going on connected with the laying of the pipes at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. However, this investment, without any doubt, threatens energy stability of Europe, and without any doubt, it also threatens Polish energy security, because it is a threat. There is a threat of Russian energy domination, especially when Russia mentions that it's going to build more pipelines, Nord Stream 3, Nord Stream 4. This threat of absolute Russian domination in Europe in terms of gas deliveries is obvious. What are the results of such a domination, ladies and gentlemen? We were able to see that ourselves a couple of years ago in Ukraine. Sudden interruption of supplies. Of course, it had nothing to do with economic factors. It was connected only and exclusively with a political blackmail was a fact. And it is obvious that today we are making efforts and we're going to go to any lengths to protect ourselves from that. That is why we decided to construct an LNG terminal. That is why we also decided to receive the LNG gas from the United States. I'm really glad that we have concluded such contracts. I'm glad that American companies are right now delivering LNG to Poland. And this precisely is a very important element of diversification of gas supplies to our country. And I firmly believe that thanks to the LNG gas terminal, thanks to expanding its capacities as far as the annual quantities of gas are concerned, we are not only going to realize and safeguard our own energy needs, but I also hope that we'll be able to transmit gas further to our neighbors through the development of the Three Seas Initiative area, through the construction of interconnectors. These issues were all well raised by us today during our talks with Mr. President. And last but not least, opening up to business. We would like to invite American business to Poland. There are better and better investment possibilities. Poland is experiencing a very dynamic growth. Of course, there are companies from the United States which have been present in the Polish market for many, many years, like General Electric, which right now is implementing a huge investment concerning energy sector in Poland, conventional energy. Such as construction of the Ostrołęka 2 plant that is a huge contract amounting to almost $2 billion. These are the huge projects which are all being realized in Poland, but we want to invite to Poland all business people, those who have got huge economic projects here and who have got huge possibilities of investment, but we would also like to invite the smaller ones. Poland is a big European country. I believe it is an interesting partner where the United States and the US business is very much welcome, and I want to assure you, ladies and gentlemen, about that. There is also a perspective of developing your activity through Poland to include the Three Seas countries, and this is something that we have been working on as a part of the Three Seas Initiative. We want to ensure also the communication possibilities, and we also want to increase the opportunities for economic cooperation. We want also business partners from the US to join our projects. There are going to be a lot of communication, traffic-related investments in our part of Europe. We would like to invite American businesses to come because I believe that this opens up an opportunity for making joint business. And ladies and gentlemen, all of that is connected, of course, with the issue of military security. I'm hugely delighted with the presence of US armed forces in the Polish territory. I'm deeply satisfied with the decisions that were taken by Warsaw NATO Summit in 2016, where the presence of the military forces of NATO in Poland was guaranteed. I'm also happy that we have in Poland American soldiers as part of our bilateral agreements, but I would like to invite you, Mr. President, to post more American troops to Poland. We believe that the presence of the United States is a guarantor of security in our part of Europe. We ourselves want to invest further. We want to modernize Polish armed forces. Mr. President Trump mentioned the so-called Wisła air defense system that includes the purchase of Patriot missiles. We are implementing the largest military investment so far as the Polish armed forces are concerned over the last 30 years. We want to implement more projects. We want to buy more equipment. We also want to cooperate in the area of research and development as regards military technology. And I'm convinced that this cooperation between Poland and the United States will go on smoothly. I hope that Mr. President will make a decision to deploy to Poland more U.S. units together with equipment.
What would you say, how did the President respond to your position to have a permanent base from America in Poland? And then also, do you currently have concerns over the U.S.-Russia relationship?
Oczywiście.
Well, of course, I told Mr. President about all the aspects connected with the permanent presence of the U.S. armed forces in Poland. But first and foremost, I assured Mr. President of one thing. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot say that if there are permanent bases of the U.S. armed forces in Poland, we will see a deterioration of security, because that will lead to an increased Russian activity and an increased militarization of this part of Europe by Russia. I want to say it clearly, ladies and gentlemen, a very strong militarization of, for instance, Kaliningrad Oblast has taken place for more than 10 years now. It is the reality that we live in today. As far as an aggressive Russian behavior is concerned, as far as increased military activity is concerned, including increasing of the militarization, Russia has been conducting such activities in a systematic way. And for the first time, we're able to see that in a materialized way in Georgia in 2008, when the then president of Poland, Professor Lech Kaczynski, took other European leaders, and they went to Tbilisi to stop Russian tanks which were about to attack the capital of Georgia. And from that moment, that military expansion has been developing. It's another leg was the attack on Ukraine, and today we can see an illegal annexation of Crimea. Today we are witnessing constant violation of international law in the Lugansk and Donetsk oblasts. So these are today political and military facts of Europe, and the presence of the United States is only providing a guarantee of security and a possibility to defend. Because let me reiterate again, it is only about the guarantee of security and defense of our part of Europe, that is the free world. This is the most crucial issue right now from our perspective, from the perspective of Central and Eastern European countries. And we are speaking in one voice on this one, generally. That is why we wanted to ensure the presence of the United States Armed Forces, and also we wanted to have the presence of NATO forces in our part of Europe as well. And of course, Mr. President and his staff, his advisors, and also the Pentagon staff have to consider all these issues, but there is a whole range of arguments which are in favor of the fact that the presence of the U.S. armed forces in this area is absolutely justified today. That is due to the protection of the interests of the United States as well. So I am absolutely convinced of this one, because today, unfortunately, we are seeing international law being violated. Today, we are seeing aggressive behaviors, and I am convinced that there is no more effective method of preventing a war than a decisive stance, demonstrating that we are ready any moment to repel a possible attack. And a presence also means deterrence. At the same time, I am convinced that when we have a strong military presence in this part of Europe where there is a potential threat, then there will be no war happening ever. Polish press agency. I've got a question to President Trump. Do you share the conviction, which we have just heard a minute ago, expressed by President Duda concerning the threat which is posed to the region, but not only to the region, by Russia? And do you also share the view that permanent American bases in Poland are justified not only due to the security of the countries in our region, but also due to the security of the United States?
I think it's a very aggressive situation. I think Russia has acted aggressively. They respect force, they respect strength, as anyone does, and we have the greatest strength in the world, especially now. We were being depleted under the last administration. We had planes that were old and tired and didn't fly in some cases. They were getting used parts. This is the United States. It doesn't happen. We make the greatest planes in the world and missiles in the world. And we have enhanced, to put it mildly, our military. It's literally being rebuilt as we speak, with literally hundreds and hundreds of planes and missiles and everything that you can imagine. They never had it so good, because I got in Congress $700 billion this year, $716 billion last year. That's far more than they ever anticipated. I viewed it two ways. Number one, military, because it's always more important than anything else, including jobs. But number two is jobs. We make everything here. So it's hundreds of thousands of jobs to make for us the best military in the world. And Russia respects that. They respect that. So I am with the president. I feel that he's right. And I feel that, look, you look at the history of Poland and Russia, That's a long and very complicated history, so certainly has a right to feel that way. Okay?
Do pana prezydenta
And a question to President Duda. After the meeting that you have had today at the White House, do you have the feeling that the probability that Polish expectations concerning permanent American presence in our country are closer to being implemented? Are they going to be a fact? Ladies and gentlemen, today myself and Mr. President had a tete-a-tete meeting, a private meeting, and then we met also with our staff. We had long conversations, very honest discussions, and very strong at certain points as well in terms of diagnosis of the situation in the area of military security and energy security alike. And I am convinced that all of us are going to draw appropriate conclusions from these discussions because, as I said, both sides presented their positions in many, absolutely many elements. They are concurrent as far as the assessment of the situation currently is, what kind of steps need to be taken in order to protect both the issue of security and the issue of interests. These are business-related issues. I am convinced that